Peace and blessings, family. Welcome back for another Sunday Hope and Healing session. I'm Royce Fletcher Thomason, and we are here bringing you these Sunday Hope and Healing sessions in order to provide support, encouragement, hope, and actual healing to help you be the best version of yourself and navigate the human condition the best that you possibly can, experiencing the fulfillment of yourself the best you possibly can. So I'm in a little bit of a different location today. A little bit of a different background because I ran into a little computer challenge getting ready to go live. So apologies for the delay today, but I'm very thankful that we can still have a way to be here together and share this energy and put this information out and share this healing that it might be used for your edification. And if you feel like anybody that you know could be blessed by this, then by all means, I encourage you to share this with them. There's actually healing that is encoded in the sessions, these Sunday Hope and Healing sessions. So most of the time, it's not just me talking, but at some point I actually begin doing healing work, which can be beneficial whether a person is live or if they're catching a playback, although it's preferable to catch it live for sure. So today's theme, if you will, is centered on or focused on finding peace in the midst of the things that are outside of your control. Right? Finding peace in the midst of the things that are outside of your control. I don't know how you feel about this topic personally, but whether you accept this about yourself or not, to some degree, you're a control freak. Humans are. We want things to work out the way that we want them to work out. Sometimes we try to steer our lives in a way that we feel are predictable for us, that give us maybe a sense of security. We sometimes plan certain things out because laying them out this particular way helps us to feel safe, helps us to feel comfortable, helps us to feel secure, helps us to feel some sense of control about the things that are unfolding in our life. And certainly it's appropriate for us to plan. Certainly it's appropriate for us to take appropriate measures. Certainly we have a responsibility to engage in right thinking and in right action that will help to steer our lives in the direction that we envision for ourselves and that we would like to experience the fulfillment of. That being said, it is also a part of just being human, living on planet Earth, that there are things that come up that present themselves to us in our lives that extend beyond the realm of that which is in our control. Things that happen that we would really prefer for them not to happen. And if we could help it, we do everything we could to keep it from happening. Greetings, Terry Johnson. Good to have you in the space today. My sister from Michigan. So we do what we can to try to prevent things happening that will make us feel uncomfortable. That's on one hand. And then on another hand, there's sometimes things that come to us seemingly out of left field that end up becoming a part of our life's journey, things that we wouldn't at all have wanted to have happened. Last week was focusing on healing for people who are grieving and dealing with the pain of that. You know, reality of every human is that all of us are going to be leaving this planet at some point. All of us are going to leave here at some point. And I know of, as of yesterday, of 5 people whose mothers just very recently transitioned and are navigating that. And I know my mother is still here. My father is still here. Up until pretty recently, I still had a living grandparent. In my 50s, still had a living grandparent. But all of us have different experiences where there's a health condition that shows up for ourselves or for a loved one that we didn't expect. There's maybe an untimely death or a death that we expected. that we didn't want to happen. There's perhaps a betrayal on a job, in a relationship, with a business interaction, things that are outside of our control. There may be a decision that somebody makes to do something that ends up resulting in you feeling perhaps a trust being broken or feeling violated in some way. And these are things that extend beyond the realm of what we can actually control. Sometimes you might have a loved one that might make a decision that you don't agree with. They may choose to enter into relationships with people that you don't think that are good for them, or they may end up developing unhealthy habits that that you don't feel are the best choice for their life. And those things might be outside of your control. And a lot of times when we experience things that are outside of our control, we experience a sense of sometimes frustration, sometimes anxiety, sometimes fear, right? And a big reason why we try to control things so often is because what it is that we're really trying to control is our feelings. We try to control external things because of the way that that makes us feel. If things can go according to the plan that we've laid out, we feel like we'll feel safe, or we get a sense that we'll feel safe, that we'll feel comfortable with that has or creates for us a feeling that we feel good about. And who doesn't want to have good feelings, positive feelings? We all want to feel the way that we want to feel. And so we do things that help us feel the way that we want to feel, and we refrain from doing things that make us feel ways that we don't want to feel, or at least we try to. There is a very real experience of self-sabotage that we engage in based on patterns and programming that we've got going on internally that we haven't yet figured out how to reconcile. And so we might end up doing things that prove to be unhealthy for us. We might end up wanting things or thinking that we want things that will make us feel a way that we think that we want to feel. But those things might not necessarily be healthy for us, and might end up actually causing more pain later. But we end up engaging in those things, find ourselves attracted to certain types of things, situations, and people, thinking that that's what we want, but in reality, that's actually just what we're familiar with. And so then we have maybe people behaving in ways that extends beyond the spectrum of our comfort zone. They do things maybe that are out of our control. And even with people with whom we resonate very strongly, sometimes there may be decisions that might be made that, that we can't control, or things that a person may do with their body that you can't control, just as it is on the other end of the scale. There might be life circumstances that might happen. A company might go under. There might be changes in the economy. Costs of housing are rising, and pretty much everything else the cost is rising of, while incomes don't tend to be rising at the same rate, but rather at a lower rate. There are things that are made through the government, things that are happening politically, things that may happen on your job, or things that may happen just in life that you can't control, and as much as you might like to steer things in a certain direction or see things go in a certain direction, the direction that they're actually going in is a way that doesn't feel good to you. And so again, what it is that we're ultimately wanting is a certain feeling. We want to feel empowered, or we want to feel at peace, or we may want to feel free, right? These are things that were some kind of basic feelings that we're wanting to have. And then the activities that we engage in, the things that we interact with, and our way of relating to certain situations, people, etc., is based on what we think will bring us the fulfillment of what it is that we're wanting, right? We think that, in fact, all of the things that we want because of how we think having that will make us feel. All of the things that we avoid because of how we think that particular thing will make us feel, right? And so, in this spirit, the reality is, in 1995, in a small town in Alabama, while I was a student in college, there was a hurricane that hit. It felt like the wall in my bedroom where I was going to actually cave in because of how strong the winds were. There was no clean water for a couple weeks. There was no electricity for at least a week. There were trees uprooted all over the place. There were businesses that closed down that to this day never ended up opening back up. And one of the things that was very clear to me in that experience was that there isn't really anything that we can actually control. We're not really ultimately in control of anything. When I had another experience with a hurricane in 2017, another reminder, we're not really in control of anything. We want to control things, or at least we think that we want to control things because we're wanting to have peace, and we think that things working out this or that particular way will help bring us peace, and things not working out this or that particular way will challenge our peace, or will present us with something that doesn't feel good to us. It will stimulate anxiety within us, or whatever type of unpleasant sensation in our body temple, right? In our sense of mental and emotional well-being. But the fact of the matter is, we close these sessions each week talking about how we're engaged in this process of getting to the point where we're dwelling in the sustainable state of supreme satisfaction. And not a temporary thing. And those things that we try to control are things that we're wanting to work out a certain way because of the sense of temporary satisfaction that they'll give us. But I'm talking about a sustainable satisfaction of a supreme nature. The only way to get that can never be based on external circumstantial types of things. That's something that's got to be rooted from within. And so what I want to do today is offer healing in the direction of being able to navigate those things that we can't control, those things that we would try to avoid, those things that we don't want to happen, but we can't keep from happening, those things that we really want to happen, but no matter what we do, we can't make happen, right? And so we're going to go ahead and get into the healing now. And so again, if you know of anybody who you feel like would be blessed by this, somebody who's dealing with some stress, really all that stress is wanting something to be something that it actually isn't. Resisting what is so. Okay. And there's certain things that we get stressed out about that we can't control. And so that creates even more stress, because then we're in this like negative feedback loop where we're wanting things to go a certain way. We're feeling that they're going a different way that we want. We can't do anything to change it, and then get kind of stuck in a loop of wanting to change it in our minds, resisting the fact that it is what it is. All the while, not really being able to change what is from being what is, even though we might attempt to. And so this healing is really to help us to find a strengthened inner resolve to maintain a peace that passes all understanding, if you will. A peace that doesn't have the prerequisites of things working out the way that you want them to, right? a peace that's based on what's going on inside of you, not what's going on outside of you or around you. Okay? All right. So we're going to start with a prayer and then we'll get into the actual healing word. So God, I know you to be a healer, a redeemer, a sustainer, a transformer, a transmuter, that there is no circumstance or situation that is beyond your ability to transform, beyond your ability to heal, beyond your ability to work out. And through the union that we share, through the power of your pure love and your Holy Spirit, I call forth your healing and demonstrate you as a healer. On the behalf of anyone who is now speaking their name, raising their hand, or saying, yes, that's me, for the purpose of neutralizing from the point of the cause or root all stress, anxiety, worry, fear, anger, and negative emotion tied to the things that are outside of one's control. From the point of the causal root, the entire energetic structure of every strand of DNA in every cell of each person's body, and transmuting that into and replacing it with the grace to navigate life no matter what comes our way, with a sense of peace and grace, a sense of ease and grace, but definitely to have the grace to navigate whatever comes our way and to be able to have internal peace in the midst of whatever shall arise, and to be truly able to dwell in that sustainable state of supreme satisfaction. And I bear witness to our wholeness on this date and in this time and space called now. Thank you. Thank you, God, for this gift of your divine love. It is done. It is done. It is done. All right. And so let's go ahead and get into the healing now. Again, there will be words that I'll be speaking. What's happening isn't really based on the words that I'm speaking. There's some other things that are happening in invisible dimensions that are actually bringing forth some healing. And so I want to first start with socialization programming that we have, that our feelings have to be based on certain conditions being met. Okay. And so I want to deal with this belief system of conditional peace, that our only hope of having peace is based on the fulfillment or the meeting of certain conditions. Okay, so we want to transmute that into being able to find that peace within, no matter what's going on the outside. Okay. Lord Jesus said, if somebody tells you the kingdom of heaven is over here, or if somebody tells you that it's over there, don't believe them. I tell you that the kingdom of heaven is within you and all around you. That's powerful. And so let's tap into taking off the fear-based mind. Taking off the fear-based mind, transmuting that into and putting on the mind of Christ, putting on a mind that is centered in peace, and a heart that is centered in peace. Okay. All right. So let's look at early programming, where we were actually. I'm not trying to step on any toes. If your toes do get stepped on in this process, it's not personal, I promise you. This is all of us. This is we humans. So we learned at an early age, before we were even able to talk, that if we behaved in certain ways, it might generate certain responses from people. Okay. When we were babies and we were hungry or we were thirsty or we, needed to be changed, we would cry. And so in a lot of ways, our behavior ended up resulting in behavior that gave us what we wanted: to be fed, to be held, to be given something to drink, to have our diaper changed, whatever the case might be, right? And so early on in life, we learn different coping mechanisms. We learn ways to, it's not in our thinking that we're doing this, but we learn ways to manipulate people in situations to help us get what it is that we want, so that we can have what we perceive as our need satisfied. Okay. And so let's take that, let's transmute these lower level coping mechanisms that are essentially ways that we learned very early on to help us get what it is that we feel like we want in a moment, but then also carry those things later on in life in ways that really don't ultimately serve us well, that don't ultimately help us to get to that place of that sustainable state of supreme satisfaction that I referred to earlier. Okay. All right, so let's look at I want to look specifically at a part of the brain called the amygdala. Okay. So the amygdala is in a very old part of the brain, in the reptilian part of the brain. It's a very primal part of the brain, and it's a part of the brain that really deals with our survival. Okay, I think I may have mentioned this last week or the week before. It ends up stimulating that fight or flight response. Okay. And I'm on the phone, and since the computer was acting goofy, and now I'm getting a notification that the battery is a little low on the phone. We'll go for however long we go. I'll try to end it, be mindful to end it before the battery runs out on my phone. Okay, so let's tone down the overactive nature of the amygdala, or overactive amygdala, and actually tone down excess levels of cortisol and adrenaline. And I want to address the addiction to dopamine. Okay. When they say somebody's on dope, that's usually referred to as a drug, right? If somebody's called a dope head, that really essentially means that somebody is addicted to drugs. You're talking about somebody who's dealing with a drug addiction. What the dope is really referring to is a chemical in the brain called dopamine, which gives a person a sense of a rush, a sense of some type of reward. Okay, so people who are thrill seekers, what they're doing is they're chasing after that dopamine hit. Actually, anything that somebody develops a chemical dependency upon is actually a dependency on, it's a hormonal dependency. It's not specifically a dependency on the drug or the alcohol or the sex or the gambling or the drama or whatever the case might be. They're really chasing after a hormonal fix, a chemical fix that particular thing represents for them. Okay. And so there ends up becoming this, that's how people people who are players and stuff, that's how they actually grab people and bring them in and get them addicted to them to control them, because they play with that balance between adrenaline. They play between the balance between fear and reward. So they're messing around with that. They're messing around with that amygdala in a way, in terms of the way they're interacting with one, stimulating that adrenaline, that cortisol, that stress, and then that little bit of reward from the dopamine hit that comes. Okay. Now, the dopamine isn't what's really truly satisfying, right? Serotonin is more satisfying. Okay. And so what happens is that people end up having this relationship. They'll have relationships with people, but they're having relationships with chemicals within their body. There's the adrenaline, there's the cortisol, there's the dopamine, and there's the oxytocin. The oxytocin gives that sense of feeling close to someone. It's like a bonding hormone. Okay, all right. And so the hormones that we really want to actually have working more fluidly are melatonin, serotonin, and oxytocin. Okay, we want those. Those are the chemicals that we're really, because those are creating something that's a little more lasting, more fulfilling ultimately. All right. And so let's look right now at neutralizing our own internal addictions to our own stress hormones. Neutralizing our addictions to our own stress hormones and balancing that out. Optimizing, opening up new neural pathways in the brain. Open up new neural pathways in the brain. Infusing the cerebral cortex with love and light. I actually want to direct a lot of love and light to the limbic system, which is largely connected to emotions and memories. Okay. Sometimes we end up getting in situations where we get addicted to people, actually, or get addicted to certain types of people. And so we tend to gravitate towards people who aren't good for us, right? Because of the way that it triggers certain hormones within us. Okay, so let's tone those down and optimize the melatonin, serotonin, and oxytocin to unfold in healthy ways. Now, again, oxytocin is the bonding hormone. It's released when a mother is feeding a child. It is released, should be at least anyway, the way that nature is designed. It's released when two people are making love. Times where there's a feeling of deep, strong connection, there's a release of the chemical of oxytocin. Okay. When you engage in a hug with someone for 30 seconds, it doesn't happen in the first 2-3 seconds. If you engage in a hug with somebody for 30 seconds, you'll get to that point where oxytocin is being released, and a deeper sense and experience of connection is developed in that. Most people feel uncomfortable before getting to that point. But at any rate, let's also tone down the stories that we tell ourselves, the negative stories that we tell ourselves about what needs to happen in order for us to feel a certain way, or what we're anticipating happening if this, or this happens, that will bring us pain and discomfort. So we want to tone that down. And we want to transmute that into and replacing it with the confidence and the trust that all things are working together for your good. That though there might be things that you can't control, though there might be things that people might do that impact you, that are meant to harm you, that are meant for evil, that God can still turn around and work those things out to your good. Let's strengthen and boost up the faith that everything is going to work out in the end anyway. Okay, no matter what the temporary circumstance or situation might be. And then let's look at making things to be more serious than they really have to be. Woo! Sometimes we make things that, sometimes we take ourselves too seriously, quite frankly. Sometimes we just take life too seriously. Heard it said that, and perhaps you've heard the same before, that life is too important to take seriously. To be able to have a lightness about yourself, right? Okay. To not let your heart be heavy, but to be able to wear this world and everything that's in it as a loose garment, with a sense of non-attachment to the outcome. Whereas there might be things that you desire, ways that you might want things to work out, to be non-attached to the outcome. And so that it would be wonderful if this happens this way, but if this doesn't happen this way that I think I want it to happen, that's okay, because there's going to be an open door for something that does work out for me in a way that's going to prove to be really beneficial and a blessing for me. All right. So let's boost up trusting God's timing. Okay. All right, that's looking stronger. Let's boost up. Let's boost up telling ourselves, telling versions of stories that are actually empowering. Okay. So many years ago, I went through this program called Landmark Forum. They might call it something else now. But it was mentioned in this, and I appreciate, I thought there was a lot of wisdom in this perspective, that whatever happens in our life, there's some story that we're telling about that. A lot of times the story, we have stories we tell about other people. We have stories that we tell ourselves about different situations that have happened in life. And a lot of times the stories that we're telling, we're thinking that they're accurate stories, but at the end of the day, it's still just a story nonetheless. And a lot of the stories that we tell are stories that make us feel bad, that make us feel disempowered, that make us feel a variety of negative emotions. But if it's just a story, why not tell yourself a story that feels better? You know, there are situations where people may do things or may refrain from doing things. And there are a lot of stories you can tell yourself that will make you feel bad about that. There are also stories that you can tell yourself that can help you find peace in the midst of that. Okay. All right. And so let's look at finding creative ways to tell yourself new stories about your life. New stories about things that happen in your past, things that shall come up in your life, and ability to navigate that with, to be able to navigate that with grace, and to be able to navigate that with a sense of nobility. Okay. All right, so now let's look at overemphasis being placed on the lower self. the part of you that gets caught up in stuff, the part of you that gets sucked into drama, the part of you that um, tends to go to what Dr. Daniel Amen calls the ants, the automatic negative thinking. Okay. The part of you that's attached to your pain body. Okay. And let's transmute that into a proclivity to identify with and express through your higher self. To truly operate in your right mind. Okay. A lot of times there might be moments that things happen and we lose a sense of self-control. We end up going down a road that we don't necessarily need to go down. So let's actually boost up being able to tap into that part of us where there's a greater wisdom and a greater peace that's actually operating that we just don't tend to identify with as much, particularly in situations that we would deem stressful. All right, so let's also let's deal with FOMO, fear of missing out. Sometimes it's healthy for us to let go of certain circumstances, situations, relationships, because they're not really healthy for us. Sometimes there are certain people that we'll continue to have some level of relationship with, but certain things about them may not vibe with, may not gel with us, or how we choose to live our lives. But to be able to still be able to have peace with them, even though they may operate differently, may see things differently. Okay, may choose a different lifestyle than what we might choose, and all of those different things. But to be able to actually have peace with who they really are to us. And so to be able to look beyond a person's personality. We hear this talk about people having a big personality or people being a strong personality. Personality, and I think I've said this before as well, a personality is the persona a person puts on. A persona is a mask. And so that's the aspect of a person that we're seeing that isn't really their true self. And so want to transmute to seeing beyond the personality of a person. And this is whether you like a person or dislike a person, or whether you care about a person, but there's certain aspects of their personality that just don't mesh well with you. To be able to see beyond their personality, to be able to see the truth of who it is that they really are as a soul, as a spiritual being, and to be able to see yourself as a spiritual being created in the image and likeness of divine perfection itself. Because you as a human being were made in the image and likeness of God, in whom there is no flaw and in whom there is no error. So to be able to see and behold the presence of God and that purity, your original perfect and pure self within yourself, and to be able to see and behold the vision of the perfect and pure you beyond whatever your issues and your history and the dramas of life that you've experienced and the poor decisions that you've made along the way and the negative things that other people have said about you or the ways that other people have perceived you. And to nonetheless be able to see the purity of who it is that you really are. To be able to truly experience a return to innocence. It's a meditation that have a theta brainwave meditation I have called A Return to Innocence. If it's something that you're interested in, reach out to me and I can share it with you. Okay, and so let's look right now at, and if somebody can put the time in, regardless of what your time zone is, I'll figure that out. But if somebody can put the time in, Just want to be mindful of where it is. Again, I'm on my phone. I'm not able to see all the things that I would normally be able to see, including the time right now. Okay, so let's look at misguided quests for power. I want to purify that through the power of God's pure, unconditional love and transmute it into a quest for authentic power. Dr. David R. Hawkins, in his landmark book, Power versus Force, distinguishes what's actually authentic power from what we typically call power, right? Which he labels as force. Okay, the things that we do to try to control other people in other circumstances are things where we're trying to force a thing to turn out the way that we want it to, or force our will upon another person. But a real authentic power is something that is self-possessed. It's not based on anything external. It's based on what's going on within us. And so, you know, a lot of times people are chasing for power. There are wars that are fought over energy. And that's what we're really constantly engaged in battles over, is energy. We're in battles over energy when really the power that we really want is planted within us. And if we could tap into the power that is within us, again, we're made in the image and likeness of the one whom has all power. And so if we can tap into that real, true, authentic power that's not based on certain conditions or certain expectations being met, that isn't based on things working out the way that we'd like them to work out, but that is based on a true tapping into and a true resonance and a true identification with the presence and power of God working on the inside of us and working through us, then we're able to be that one who, in the judgment or on the day of reckoning, is able to actually have our heart be no heavier than that of a feather. We're able to be lighthearted. We're able to be at a state of true, genuine, authentic peace. Right? All right. And so let's look at all the ways that we actually benefit from not having peace. What are the ways? And if you can think of it and you want to be really honest, what are some of the ways that, put it in the comments, what are some of the ways that you benefit from not having peace? Right? What are some of the benefits that you reap from not having peace? Because I tell you this, if there wasn't some benefit from you not having peace, you would have peace. I know that you think it's circumstantial to some degree, but if there wasn't some benefit that you were getting from not having peace, from not being in peace, you would be in peace. Maybe it's because you feel some sense of reward from seeing people who hurt you in pain. Okay, but that's taking you away from your peace. Maybe it's because your victim stories actually give you attention. Maybe it is because the things that you've shared about things that haven't felt good to you actually resulted in you getting sympathy from other people. Maybe because you feel stronger when you're angry. Okay. Maybe it's because you're judgmental towards people who are happy and peaceful. And you don't want to be what you're standing in judgment of, right? Okay. And so let's look at those benefits that you get from not being at peace. And let's neutralize the benefit factor. You getting rewarded for not being in peace. We want to remove the rewards from not being at peace and optimize the rewards that you get from being at peace. Optimize the rewards that you experience internally from putting yourself in a mindset and in a heart set that nurture your decision to dwell in a state of peace. Okay. All right. And let's strengthen your ability to attract people into your life who support your decision to dwell in a state of peace. Okay, getting another notification about the battery. We'll be closing this down soon. All right. Drawing into your life experience circumstances that support your decision to dwell in a state of peace. Not that these things are required or that you won't be at peace until you have X, Y, Z, but because you choose to dwell in a state of peace, you attract into your life things that support that decision and nurture your peaceful state that you've already decided to dwell in. Okay. All right. And so let's now deal with your sense of worthiness. So before we deal with the sense of worthiness, we've got to deal with the sense of unworthiness. Deal with the sense of unworthiness that deals with negative feelings that you have about yourself. Okay, so we want to transmute that and purify that to a deep, deep, deep sense of self-forgiveness. A deep, deep, deep sense of self-forgiveness. And an ability to simultaneously be gentle with yourself while holding yourself accountable. So to be able to hold yourself accountable to make good, healthy decisions and to be gentle with yourself in the reality that there have been times where you've not made the best decisions and that you still may have times where you don't necessarily make the decisions that serve your highest and best good. Okay. Marissa Carson says it's hard to do when you're surrounded by toxicity, mainly at work, until you have an exit. Holding to peace is hard. People cross boundaries on purpose. Yeah. I understand that. I get that. There was a job that I had in Houston where actually the first time I went into the building, it was physically painful to my body because of all of the electronics that were there. It was overloading my nervous system. I would literally take a banana to work, and within an hour, a yellow banana would be completely brown. That was because of the actual environmental toxicity, but there was also a very high degree of human toxicity in the place as well. My leadership style is to empower others the best that I can, to give the credit to my people, and to take when things do work out well, and to take responsibility when things don't. That wasn't the vibe of the place or the attitude of the place in general. Their attitude was when things didn't work well, throw the people under the bus. When their people did things well, to take the credit for it. And so that was very toxic. It took a long time for me to actually make the decision to leave that place. There were a lot of things that were going on in my head about why I couldn't leave at any particular time. And then I left, and I ultimately left, and I was so glad that I did. and people could see that I was lighter. Actually, at the same time, I was going through a significant degree of personal challenges outside of the workplace. And at the same time, both of those things melted away from my life. Hmm. Whew, that's taken me back to a time of feeling of a profound relief. But really what it comes down to is a decision. And when we make a decision that we're going to dwell in a state of peace, one of two things is going to happen. Either the people around us are going to change in how they interact towards us, or circumstances will unfold where they will be pulled away from our presence. Or actually, a third thing is they'll continue to be the way that they always were, but you're operating at a vibration to where that doesn't affect you. You've got a force field around you where those things just aren't really able to penetrate your aura, and they're not really able to get into the inside of you. Okay. Now, ultimately, in the final analysis, what you're ultimately wanting is the peace. And if you truly make that decision that what you're going to have is peace, then you'll find that toxicity will start to move away. And then you might find that other types of people and other types of situations are coming into your life. And then you might have to just learn to navigate the uncomfortability of that, because you don't know what that situation feels like. I'm not saying, Marissa, that this is necessarily your specific case, but it is what happens. It might feel a little odd to be in an environment where we're actually being valued, where we're dealing with people who are actually operating from a healthy space rather than a toxic space. And then we'll just learn to navigate that. We make that adjustment because we've been used to something very different. And this is something new that's actually much better for us, but we just might need to figure out how to fully embrace that. Okay. And one thing that we can do with that is there's an affirmation I got from a lady named Anita Murjani. And it's real simple. It just goes like this. I only engage with those who are loving and supportive towards me. Sometimes I'll add the word respectful. I only engage with those who are loving, supportive, and respectful towards me. I started doing that, and actually, there were two things that were rained extremely heavily on me at the time, both of which were profoundly toxic for me, and where I found myself dying on the inside, just to be quite frank with you. I started doing that, and those other circumstances changed. I ended up choosing to let go of that job, end up being much better off after I let go of it, even better off financially, which was what I was concerned about. Ended up being somewhere where I was actually valued and appreciated, and who I wasn't perceived as a threat to somebody else. Okay. And so that was a result of having, engaged in that affirmation. I only engage with those who are loving and appreciative towards me. That doesn't mean that you won't ever interact with people who have a funky little attitude that you might come across in a grocery store, or when you call customer service and you actually eventually reach a human being. There may be times and situations where you might interact with people who aren't necessarily in that space. But I found that I've been, not that I master it 100% of the time, but I find that I'm much better even at redirecting people's thought process and energy when they're in that negative space. Okay. And I see the shift, and I'm very thankful. I'm very thankful for that. I see it as a blessing in their life as well as in mine. Okay. So let's actually let's deal with the belief system of having to dwell in toxic environments, or that peace has to be difficult. Let's neutralize that whole belief system and transmute it into openness to the possibility that peace can flow easily and naturally. Mm. Openness to the belief system that peace can flow easily and naturally. Some of it is based on decisions that we make. Some of it is based on this. Actually, a lot of it is based on the decisions that we make. In fact, some of the most important decisions that we make is how we're going to feel. I'm going to feel at peace. I'm going to feel gratitude. I'm going to feel self-expressed. And then when you really make that decision, in making that decision, it actually triggers us to take other steps that support that decision, right? I choose to dwell in a state of peace. Therefore, I'm going to bring into my life things that support that. I'm right now on a patio and I'm looking, since I've been doing this live, I've seen little ducks walk by. I've got the water that's right here. In a peaceful environment. You may hear some children playing because they're close by. But I find myself in a very, very peaceful environment that speaks to my soul, where I'm surrounded by nature that feels good to me. I'm choosing to engage in relationships that are where there's warmth, with people who are warm and loving, and people who have a similar consciousness to me. And by similar consciousness to me, I'm saying people who are on a wavelength where they're also seeking to dwell in a state of peace and seeking to dwell in a state of authentic self-expression and genuinely engaged in a spiritual path where they're taking responsibility for their life and not just wanting to project their stuff on other people all the time, but truly looking to do the internal work to dwell in a state of peace for themselves. And then when we interact with one another, we're interacting from that space. We're interacting from a space of genuine warmth and love and authentic connection and honoring who one another is and their authentic self-expression in ways that may be similar to us and in ways that may be different to us or different from us, right? Anyway, that's my story and I'm sticking to it. I'm going to do a couple more corrections and then we'll close this out for today. So what I want to do right now is I want to deal with actually finding peace with our past, making peace with our past, whatever that entails. And that past could be decisions that we've made, and that past could also be trauma that we've been through, heartache and challenges and difficulties that we've endured in life, to be able to make true, genuine, authentic peace with that. Okay. And to carry that peace forward into our lives. So a lot of times people have things that happen in their past, difficulties that happen in their past. My brother, sister, and niece were in town visiting with me, left just a few minutes before starting this live broadcast today. And this same brother, a sister of mine a sister of ours who lives in the area also, and we watched this one particular show. It's actually a reality show. But my brother and I were watching it, each trying to catch up because our sister and I are further along. And there's this one particular person on this show who it's very evident has a lot of baggage and a lot of fears from things that things that they've experienced in the past that they're projecting, and it really comes across as challenging for this person that they're dealing with, because it's bringing a lot of what would be otherwise unnecessary drama to the situations. Okay. And so that's what that really is based on, is fears from things that happened in the past projected into the future. So we're going to neutralize within us in general fears from the past projected into the future, and open up for the possibility of the most beautiful experience that we've ever had, and the most beautiful experiences that we've ever had, and to be neutral about it and non-attached to it having to happen any particular way or having to look any particular way. So being truly open to how it is that God directs it and orders it in a way that is truly in alignment with what's going to support our highest and best good and the highest and best good of everybody involved. Okay. And now what I'd like for us all to do is to just take a deep breath in through our heart, breathing in the light of God's love, and exhaling from our heart the light of God's love, where that is expanding through our bodies. On the exhalation, breathing in the light of God's love, seen as a beautiful, pure light infused with a wonderful, wonderful sense of peace and harmony and tranquility, spreading out throughout our entire bodies. And if there's anywhere in your body where you might feel any discomfort or you might feel any negative emotion, now and going forward, I want to encourage you to welcome the light of God's love and the presence of God's peace into that situation, into that relationship, into that part of your body, into that circumstance. Okay. Now, this requires you to truly be responsible, to be spiritually responsible. Okay. To be willing to allow yourself to take responsibility for your own peace, rather than making that the responsibility of anybody or anything else. Okay. And let's also increase receptivity and sensitivity to the presence of God's peace and our own attractiveness to the presence of God's peace, so that the presence of God's peace is attractive to a lot of times the things that we say that we want. We say that we want them, but when they come in our direction, we push them away because we don't feel worthy or it feels uncomfortable to us. And it only feels uncomfortable to us because it feels unfamiliar. And so that feeling of unfamiliarity stimulates some level of fear. And so let's deal with the fear of the unknown. Neutralize the fear of the unknown, the fear of the unfamiliar, and transmute that into feeling safe in whatever direction God is leading, and to be able to be in a state of true alignment with wherever it is the God is leading that is for your highest and best good. That's not always what our egoic mind thinks it is that we want. But what it always is that we ultimately want is that which really does serve our highest and best good, even if it doesn't look like, in our limited thinking based on the 10% of our brain capacity that we're using, is what's going to actually help support us in our decision to dwell in the sustainable state of supreme satisfaction. So God, thank you so much for the healing that's gone forth today. Thank you, God, for helping us to, on some level, to whatever degree that we're receptive to it, And to whatever degree we've been able to touch on it in this Sunday Hope and Healing session, to be able to neutralize all of those blockages and those things that were standing in the way of us really being in a state of peace. When we experience things that we may find to be out of our control, or things not working out the way that we would have liked them to, but to be able to really, truly be able to step into, walk in, dwell in the peace of God that passes all understanding, that's not based on what typically makes sense to humans as a requirement for a person to be able to have peace, but to be able to tap into that deep spiritual power of being able to find that place in ourselves where our peace cannot be disturbed, and to bring that up to the forefront of our consciousness and our lives. God, thank you again for this blessing and for the privilege of being able to participate in it. And I affirm on behalf of us all, it is done, it is done, it is done. Ashe and amen. All right, well, Marissa, Tanya, Terry, anybody else who's been here today, thank you so much for being here. Thank you for showing up. Thank you for showing up for you. I'm doing this because I genuinely believe that it makes a difference in people's lives, that it can make a difference in all of our lives, and that the more healed we all are, the better it is for all of us. The better it is for all of us. Okay. And so I'm happy to do this work. You know, the methodology of this healing that I've been doing and that we do on these Sunday Hope and Healing sessions, referred to as transcending the matrix. It's something I'm happy to utilize, and that I'm equally happy to share with other people. The truth of the matter is that you have healing power inside of you that you just need to access. You may not have accessed it, but it's inside of you, where you can actually help to bring about profound levels of healing, even what, you know, in the medical industry is referred to as medical miracles in people's lives. And the people don't have to be physically present with you. They could be on the other side of the globe. They could be on the moon. But just like I'm broadcasting from my little balcony in Tampa, Florida, and you're in wherever part of the world that you're in right now, I know that you're not on my balcony with me. The healing was still made available to you, just like this broadcast on YouTube or Facebook or wherever you're tuned in from. You've been able to access it. And I'm broadcasting it from my phone. It's not in any wires that are connected to anything. The only wire that's connected to anything that I'm dealing with right now is this microphone that's connected to my phone. But just like the internet works and can reach all over the place, so too does the blessing of this work. And the thing about it is, it's not requirement to have a tower nearby where you are. So there's no dead zones for the spiritual energy. There's no dead zones for the spiritual energy. There's no place where God is not. And all that we're doing here is, in a very practical and a very real sense, helping to welcome into various places within your consciousness, within your body, within your life, the power of the presence of God's life-transforming love and light into areas where it is maybe heretofore not quite been welcomed in, or where you may have closed the door in some area, or where somebody else has, where you're helping them to bring that to them in a fuller way. In the midst of that, while you're engaged in this service work, you get to actually have the blinders cleared from your eyes. You get to transcend the matrix of third dimensional beliefs of separation. You get to transcend the matrix of illusion. You get to see the deeper truth that is beyond the realm of what seems to what actually is. And to me, that's a great value of this work, and what I feel so humbled to be able to participate with it, to be able to be the vessel through which it was birthed into the earth, and to be able to share it with other people and train other people to be able to utilize it, to be able to impact the people in their lives. Anyway, that's my story, and I'm sticking to it. I love you. God bless you. Peace be with you. And as we endeavor to together dwell in this sustainable state of supreme satisfaction, I bid you do with peace and love. Catch you next time.